Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am so excited to be your guide today because we are going to unpack a massive structural shift that's happening right under our noses. Look, if you've been paying any attention to the economic landscape lately, you've probably noticed that the Made in the USA label is having a major comeback. But let me be totally clear right off the bat. This is not just some passing wave of nostalgia. We are looking at a structural economic revolution. For decades, the global strategy was basically to rely heavily on hyperglobalization and hunting for the cheapest labor possible. Well, today, that script has completely flipped to localization and resilience. So let's break down exactly how and why this is happening and what it all means for the future of industry.
So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The deglobalization wave. 2. The lean automation secret. 3. Following the smart money. And 4. The skills gap hurdle. Basically, this is going to give us the what, the why, the how, and the where of this entire manufacturing renaissance.
All right, let's jump right into it with Section 1, the deglobalization wave, and specifically, moving away from single supplier risk. Okay, so remember the old game of globalization? It prioritized the absolute lowest possible cost above everything else, and that led to a really dangerous reliance on single overseas suppliers. Over the last few years, thanks to massive supply chain meltdowns and rising geopolitical tensions, businesses learned the hard way that putting price tags over security is a giant vulnerability. I mean, when a distant port shuts down, your entire business just grinds to a halt. There's no way around it. The new localization completely flips this script. Today, the driving forces are all about resilience and sovereignty. Companies are waking up to the fact that locating production domestically, or at least in allied nations, isn't just nice to have, it's a baseline requirement to keep operations secure. In a lot of ways, localization really is the new globalization.
Now, the second wave of deglobalization is mainly playing out through two major strategies. First up, you have friendshoring. This is when companies move production to allied, politically stable nations to cut down on geopolitical risk. The second strategy is reshoring, which is exactly what it sounds like, bringing production completely back home. Both of these point to a huge paradigm shift. Companies are now actually pricing in security and reliability as primary metrics, rather than just frantically chasing the lowest possible manufacturing overhead.
And the momentum behind this is undeniable. Get this, 75%. Nearly 3/4 of organizations out there right now either have a reindustrialization strategy in place or they are actively working on building one. This is not some fringe idea anymore. It's literally becoming the dominant strategic maneuver for the vast majority of major global enterprises today. Which brings us to Section 2, the lean automation secret. We're going to look at how we actually make domestic production financially viable. Because look, this brings up a massive, glaring structural challenge. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, isn't labor way more expensive over here? And the honest answer is, absolutely, yes it is. So how on earth are companies pulling this off without just destroying their margins and going totally bankrupt?
Well, the secret sauce is advanced lean automation. We are definitely not talking about rebuilding the manual, gritty factories of the 1970s. By aggressively leaning into advanced automation, companies are able to dramatically alter their total cost of ownership. And that is exactly what allows domestic facilities to offset those higher wages and actually compete toe-to-toe with low-cost regions overseas.
We are talking about highly integrated smart factories here. These places are wild. They deploy AI-driven systems to optimize production in real time. They use incredibly advanced robotics for the rapid, super high-precision tasks that used to take dozens of manual laborers to complete. And they leverage digital twins. If you haven't heard of these, they're basically virtual replicas of physical plants that let engineers stress test processes in a computer simulation before they ever spend a dime on actual capital. So, when you combine lean manufacturing principles with all this Industry 4.0 tech, you easily bridge that domestic labor cost gap.
All right, let's pivot a bit to Section 3, following the smart money. Where is all the capital actually moving right now?
$1.1 billion. That is the staggering estimated square feet of additional industrial real estate space we're going to need by 2028. Let that sink in. Driven by this manufacturing surge, plus the relentless, ongoing growth of e-commerce, the demand for distribution and production centers is at an absolute record high. The sheer physical footprint required to build this new domestic backbone is massively, massively huge.
And another major destination for all this capital is the clean energy sector. Clean energy supply chains have literally seen their investments more than triple. A lot of this historic buildup in domestic battery and solar module production is heavily fueled by the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA. right alongside various government tax credits. So whether you're looking at solar panels or EV batteries, the massive push to manufacture these technologies domestically has drawn an enormous amount of institutional funding.
To give you a concrete idea of how this capital is flowing across the supply chain, let's take a look at 3 specific companies that are positioned perfectly for this trend. First up, we have Protolabs in the on-demand CNC and 3D printing sector. Their strategic role? Providing incredibly fast custom parts right away, entirely bypassing all those slow overseas shipping logistics. Next, there's Rocket Lab in defense and space. They aren't just launching rockets. They are a major manufacturer of space systems sitting on a massive backlog of domestic defense contracts. And third, Hecla Mining in the raw materials sector. They produce the essential silver and copper that is absolutely critical for all this new clean tech and advanced electronics. So you've got tools, space, and materials. These are really the foundational building blocks of the new domestic backbone.
Now let's move into Section 4, the skills gap hurdle. It's time for a little reality check on reshoring. Because while the technology might be ready to go, 80% of organizations report that a labor shortage is a major roadblock to their reshoring efforts. This is what we call the skills gap. We have a severe structural deficit of workers who are actually trained to program, maintain, and operate these crazy advanced Industry 4.0 robotic systems. Honestly, it is the single biggest bottleneck slowing down this entire economic revolution right now.
Furthermore, the barrier to entry here is exceptionally steep. High initial capital costs mean it is incredibly expensive to set up these high-tech plants from scratch. And that is exactly why you see so many companies leaning heavily on government grants and incentives just to get over the finish line. This transition requires a massive upfront investment before those long-term lean automation savings can actually start kicking in and helping the bottom line.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, it's clear we are looking at a really profound structural unwinding of hyperglobalization. We are moving toward a regionalized, super tech-heavy manufacturing world that prizes security and resilience just as highly as it prizes cost. But it brings us to one final, really vital question that I want to leave you with. Is this manufacturing boom here to stay, or is it just a temporary reaction to the recent supply chain chaos we've all lived through? Ponder that as you look at the markets this week. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay focused, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next one.